Just spill your beans.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of our one-on-one film reviews for Spill Your Beans. I'm George Sheard, I'm the host today. I'm always the host, I don't know why I said today. And I'm joined today by A-level student, film lover and fellow Star Wars nut, Cooper Britton. Hello.
Alright.
How's it going? You alright?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm fine, yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the Star Wars prequels, which is a fun one. We've known each other for a while. We're both quite big Star Wars fans. We've definitely exchanged quite a few jokes regarding the Star Wars films before. So I thought we'd start with the 3 most infamous ones on the podcast, talking about the Phantom Menace, the Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. We'll probably touch a little bit on Clone Wars and stuff as well, because it's bound to go there. And as well, you might be aware that Bad Batch, as of time of the recording, Bad Batch episodes 1 and 2 have come out. I don't know if you've seen both of them.
I literally just watched episode 2 before.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so we might touch on them as well. But of course, by the time this comes out, episode 3 will also be out, but we won't have seen that. So, yes, the magic of recording in advance. So we'll just basically get started with the Phantom Menace, the first of the 3 films. What do you think? Where's your starting point with the Phantom Menace? I mean, where do you bloody start with the Phantom Menace?
So for me, Phantom Menace is it's the middle of the 3 for me, because I have a lot of good memories. It's quite nostalgic for me from when I was younger. I went to see it in 3D when it was released, re-released in the cinemas with my dad.
I wish I'd done that.
And then it was also... Yeah, I've still got the 3D glasses somewhere, which are the pod racing goggles.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They're somewhere in the house. And then obviously the end scene, Darth Maul's just amazing.
Yeah.
But then as you get older, or as I've gotten older, you do start to realise how bad the script is.
The dialogue is ass, isn't it? It's terrible.
It's absolutely dreadful.
I agree in that sense. I mean, it's one that... It's the first Star Wars film that I watched when I was younger. I was sort of sat down with the prequels first. I don't know what decision that was from my dad's front, but I think, again, when you're that young, and I think our generation especially, we didn't really pick up on the politics, so we just liked the lightsaber fights. So, in our minds, the nostalgia value is so high. But I can imagine for long-time fans who maybe saw the original trilogy, or the sort of slight generation above us, probably would be disappointed with what we got. Which is totally understandable, to be fair. Yeah,
well, it was despised when it first came out, wasn't it?
Oh, it went down like a cup of hot sick on there.
It was.
But I think it's the most interesting behind-the-scenes stuff, though. I think it says
without
so
a
much.
doubt.
I've seen that behind-the-scenes documentary so many times.
Yeah,
and
so
the sort of showcase of George Lucas and not really understanding what people kind of want. And I think it's sort of it's a telling tale about what happens when a sort of filmmaker can surround themselves by yes men almost.
It's literally just a yes
which
men.
Of course got worse and worse. But I'm sure we'll touch upon other Star Wars films generally. But a sort of bit of an early spoiler alert here that I actually prefer these films to the sequel trilogy. I do like the sequel trilogy. I'm not sitting here going Razor Mary Sue and all that sort of shit, because that's not who I am, and I like those films. But I kind of prefer these. That sort of Jeremy Clarkson meme. It's like, this is brilliant, but I like this.
Yeah. See, I do prefer the prequels, but it's probably because that era is of all the of the 3 Star Wars eras, or the 4, because of now the High Republic stuff. That would be my favorite.
Also, Clone Wars helps.
The Clone Wars,
because it kind of developed, which I know isn't part of the films, but talking about the Phantom Menace before we get trailed off in the first 5 minutes. The Phantom Menace as a whole, I mean, it starts out pretty well, kind of. I mean, I don't mind it. I think it starts off hopefully, but the dialogue is already terrible.
I remember when I last watched it. There's a scene I can't remember. I think it might be when they first arrive in the palace or something, and just Liam Neeson's just saying something, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, what's going on? This isn't Star Wars. But at the same time, it kind of now that I'm older and I appreciate the politics stuff, I kind of I do like it a lot more, because I'm just sort of sitting there going, yeah, I know it's complex, but you know what? I can't deny that they've got a hell of a complex story built up here. The world building is unreal. Say what you want about the dialogue and especially the visual effects, we'll definitely get onto that. But the actual world building like Coruscant and like the politics of it all and how it all works. It's totally fictitious, but it works so well, and it's like an allegory for American politics at the time or something like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah,
so good. I mean, like politics for kids. I mean,
Yeah,
not
it
the
literally-
most entertaining thing in the world, but it's like it works. It's a solid concept, and I enjoy that, to be honest.
it's like what a lot of the Disney films do, where they have like it's a child's film, but in the background there are like stuff that only adults would pick up on, or older people would pick up on.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of course, there's a lot of memorable things in this film. But as you mentioned before, I think the last half an hour is where it really shines for me.
It carries the entire.
That
the
is
final half an
if
hour.
the
Carries
final
the
half
film.
an hour wasn't there, you'd have Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
which is again like it's bad. But I think most of it is. It tries so hard. I think the thing that really lets down the Phantom Menace for me are sort of two things, and not to slam actors' performances, because I know these two particular actors have had, you know, so much shit over the years, and they don't deserve that. But Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker, and I can't remember his name, but whoever played Jar Jar Binks. I don't hate Jar Jar Binks. I mean, he's annoying, but like he's like it wasn't in the acting. It was just in the writing and just the whole construction of that character. I know they wanted to do something like, oh, this is the first ever fully CG character in a live action film. That's cool, but like it was kind of weird. I mean, I don't want to say it was kind of like trying to be like a racial stereotype, but it kind of, when I rewatched it recently, I was kind of like, that's rubbing me up the wrong way a little bit. There's a fantastic thing where Peter Serafinowicz, who played the voice for Darth Maul, he talked about the Phantom Menace. It's a fantastic little thing on YouTube you can find, and he talks about how the Phantom Menace is basically littered with racial stereotypes, and it is so bad when you realise it, because you've got people like Watto and like the Trade Federation, because they're all played by like white English men, and they've got very strong like Eastern accents. It's quite bad. It's quite bad. But yeah, no, I think that's what kind of lets down the Phantom Menace. I don't know what you think about that, but
Going back to the Jar Jar Binks thing, it just goes back to the script writing, doesn't it? It's just like Jar Jar Binks is. I don't hate him as much as most people do, but as I've gotten older, I find that he's a bit more annoying than when I was a kid. Or sorry, a lot more annoying than when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
but it just goes back to
he
the
is
kind of character that
irritating.
was wrote, and
it's hard. It's really hard to work around, because I sort of want to like him in a way, because you're supposed to. The way the story is structured is designed for you to like this character. But I hate him. You know, I think everyone hates him. He's an annoying pile of shit. And I think that's evident in the fact that
agree.
Yeah, it's evident in the fact that he was never in the follow-up films, bar one or two lines.
He's Snoke, man. What you on about?
It's just, I don't know what to even think. I mean, the Phantom Menace is such a non-film, but it's the most sort of Star Warsy kind of one. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, in a way, it's got a bit of both. It's the most boring, but it's also the most entertaining in certain senses.
Yeah.
I love the last half an hour, though. Let's talk about that.
Oh, the last half an hour is. It's literally, I would say that it carries the entire film.
Oh yeah,
the last half an hour,
100%.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, the Darth Maul fight alone is beautifully choreographed and not overdone to the point where it feels like it's been totally choreographed. Because for all its praises, Revenge of the Sith does feel so choreographed. And to the T. But I mean, I guess is the point. But this is sort of, it feels more natural. It feels like a proper lightsaber fight, and I can imagine, despite the disappointment of the first, most of the film, that must have been exciting. After many years, especially with the fights in the original trilogy just being sort of
well, they talk about how it's like the reason why it's so choreographed is like it's meant to be like the era of the Jedi, where this is like the Jedi at their peak, so that's why it's so choreographed, and that's why it's more flips, whereas the originals are more elegant and they're more like kind of hard hitting.
Yeah,
I think that was the reason behind it. And then there was also an interview that I saw with Hugh McGregor, who said that when they actually produced the film, him, Liam Neeson, and the Darth Maul actor, can't remember his name, they had it so down to a T that when it was in post-production, they actually had to slow it down because they were doing it so fast. Yeah. So that just shows how choreographed and how refined the fight scene was.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you feel that what they did with Darth Maul was good or bad?
Oh, I think he's brilliant.
In terms of his death specifically, do you think that death, but you know,
Death. Yeah. I think it's good because I think unintentionally it left it open. So like if they had actually killed him off, like we're talking like full on killed him off, then it wouldn't have. It leads to better things. It leaves, which Star Wars does quite a lot. It leaves a lot of things open ended.
Yeah.
So they can have the option later on. Originals to sequels. But yeah, that's kind of the
Yeah.
I like what they did with him.
Yeah.
And I think during that entire, even though he's only in like 2 films, which the second film he's only in it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
He's in
yeah,
Solo, isn't he? Yeah.
Solo, yeah.
He's kind of like the mysterious character over the entire film. He's this mysterious character that no one has any idea who he is, and then he comes in, fights Liam Neeson in the desert when they're trying to fly away. That's the first time we see him, and then in the last scene, I think everyone, once you see that double lightsaber, you go, this is a staple character.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think it's an interesting one. My only sort of downside of it is it feels like he does nothing the whole film, and if he wasn't brought back in the Clone Wars to live and be controlled by the wonderful Dave Filoni, who can actually craft a story out of nothing, it would have been quite a disappointing thing. And I know a lot of people, and the thing is that there's a way up to this, because I basically agree with both sides in the sense that I would have loved Darth Maul to be like almost like Darth Vader, like the villain for the whole trilogy or most of the trilogy, Palpatine's apprentice up until Revenge of the Sith. But there was a fantastic take, and I can't remember the ins and outs of it, but basically that each villain of each film sort of represents a part of Anakin Skywalker. In a way,
really?
It's something like that. So it's like the Darth Maul's just the like epitome of like evil. Like he's not in any way good at all. Count Dooku is the sort of the fallen Jedi, and General Grievous is the sort of cyborg.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So I mean, it plays into it, but that wasn't intentional. I so like I just I like to think that it is, but it just. I would have liked to have seen more of Darth Maul, but at the same time, like if I could go back and change any of the prequels, like would I? Probably not. I mean, like they're shit, but that's the whole point of them. Like they're good for that exact sort of reason.
They're crap, but they're enjoyable.
That's perfectly. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I don't like about this film really is the decision to make this like a significant amount of time before Attack of the Clones, because they clearly planned the trilogy out.
Yeah.
Why didn't they have Attack of the Clones as like the first one? Have a proper like spend less time, doing the whole flirting shit, and more time actually like just introducing the characters, and then Episode 2 be a Clone Wars film.
Yeah.
And then like Episode 3 being Revenge of the Sith, because you don't need to change that because it's perfect. I think like the weird thing about Phantom Menace is that it's so like detached. Like none of the characters feel like the same, especially since they replaced Yoda with CGI in the second one. It's like even like Yoda and like Obi-Wan looks totally different. Anakin grows up like 10 years. It does feel a bit weird, and it's like, why did you decide to do this like so long? I mean, like Star Wars is obviously used to having time jumps between films, but that's usually 1 or 2 years, not like, I don't know, 10 years. That's mad.
I think it's something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the whole point of the first film is just so you can see Anakin as a kid. Like I'm pretty sure, like if you actually skim over the entire plot, there's probably not a lot that is carried through the rest of the films.
Yeah, I mean, it's what the Trade Federation are basically sort of putting blockades around planets and slowly invading places and taking control. And you sort of start to see the only thing that really does that carries on to other films is it shows Palpatine's rise to power by getting himself in the Chancellor seat, which is an important part. But I didn't need to sit like he could have just been Chancellor when the film started, and it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. I understand that that's part of it, and you kind of need that manipulation, and that definitely does help. I think watching the prequels overall, it is Palpatine's story, really, seeing him from
it is.
rising through power and like his sort of taking control. And I really love that element of it, actually. I mean, I think, again, with Ian McDiarmid's performance, which we'll talk about more in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, I'm sure. But, like, in this, I think that's the only story thread that I can really think of. Because the Gungans aren't important.
Not at all.
Like, Naboo isn't important.
Not at all.
I like the Trade Federation, but, again, like, they are just a substitute. I like the idea that they're all CGI and it's all, like... I like the fact that they're all robots because it gives, like, the opportunity to have the Jedi just, like, cut through them just so easily and just, like... Basically, you get to see the Jedi on top form just killing lots of things without it being gory. It's the same reason why in films like The World's End, it's like they've got blue blood or something like that. So it's like, it doesn't feel gory because it doesn't feel real. You're not killing people, even though you are. And it's the kind of same sort of thing. It's why, like, you get away with killing droids but not like stormtroopers, which is again like why a lot of people have said about Bad Batch is kind of like a sort of interesting thing, because with the Clone Wars you could just kill as many droids as possible and it looks like big and bombastic, but now it's like clones versus clones. It's sort of a bit like can you show as much of that? Can you show clones getting like brutally murdered? Don't know, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's the same with the stormtroopers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it the same kind of thing where you get to see stormtroopers get slaughtered up in the originals and in like Rebels and stuff like that?
Yeah, I suppose in Rebels a little bit more, but I don't really, in the originals there's not. I don't know if there's that many really that die like on camera.
Probably the odd. Yeah, there's probably the odd time when one gets shot.
Like not to the level of like droids where they get like sliced in half and like arms cut off, heads cut off.
Well, you never get like thousands of stormtroopers coming storming up, do you? It's always like a million droids. Which versus 2 Jedi and all the droids are dead. So
exactly, which is brilliant, and I do like that. But I'm just.
But then the droids have a bit of humour to them as well.
Yeah,
which I quite like.
I mean, that's developed more in the Clone Wars as well, isn't it? They sort of like to piss a bit at them a bit more. But I think that's like there's something can be said about the world building there, because the Clone Wars does so much right, and the Clone Wars is so bloody enjoyable. But it doesn't do that much different to the prequels. It just slightly changes the writing. And suddenly it works.
Exactly.
The world's the same. The characters are the same. Yet it bloody works because the acting performances are good and the writing is good. And that's all you needed. And unfortunately, like, I kind of wish that, like, Dave Filoni was around back then to sort of help out, because that would have been. Can you imagine how good that would have been? It would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it was only a few years later that he sort of joined the team for Clone Wars, really. It must have been like 2008, so about 3 years after Revenge of the Sith came out, which is
I think
mad.
Clone Wars was 2008 when it started, and then that's
that's
gone all the way up until last year, really.
Yeah, and we're not going to say too much about Clone Wars in terms of spoilers, but if you haven't seen it and you're a big Star Wars fan and you want the prequels to be better in any way, shape or form, go and watch the Clone Wars. It's brilliant. I put it off for so many years, and I binged it all last year. Along with Rebels, and it was absolutely fantastic. And as a Star Wars fan generally, it was a lot more rewarding than most of the films have been, to be honest. So, I was
raised on Clone Wars. I watched it like Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah,
no,
of course.
No major spoilers, but I've said this to you.
Yeah.
She's always been my favorite character. Like through the entire thing, ups, downs, whether she was in it or not. What happens during the end? It's just she's hands down my favorite character through the entirety of the franchise.
I'm not gonna,
and that's purely because of Clone Wars.
Oh well, I mean, to be honest, kind of like same. Not my ultimate like favorite character, but I do think she's one of the best, and I'm like so excited to see what else they do with her, especially in this Ahsoka series, Mandalorian series 3, potentially Bad Batch. We'll see.
Possibly, yeah.
Do you think, just a sort of side comment to Bad Batch, because obviously it's quite recent. Do you think Omega is going to be like the Ahsoka of Bad Batch, where it's like a character that everyone sort of really hates, and then suddenly she's going to end up being quite good?
Yes, because I have a theory after the second episode of Bad Batch.
Okay, well, we can talk about that now, because there's not really too much else to say about the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It's politics, it's a bit dull. It's a pretty good film, and there's a couple more things we want to mention after, but we can talk about Bad Batch for a bit.
Only thing extra I'd like to say at the Clone Wars and about Darth Maul is, I don't know if you've seen it, but there was a book released a little while ago about George Lucas's plan. Well, I just watched a YouTube video about it. George Lucas's plan for the sequel films. Whether it was planned during the prequels or not, which I doubt it was, Darth Maul was the intended villain for George Lucas's sequel trilogy.
Yeah. So and that would have been good, but I think Clone Wars kind of wiped that out a little bit.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
Prefer, to be honest,
It was meant to be him versus like Leia, on, and I think Luke was meant to die in between what would have been 6 and 7.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. And Leia was meant to take
That
over
is
as
mad.
the main character, and then it was meant to be like it was Darth Maul and Leia were meant to like kind of converge on something. They were trying to find something that was related to Luke and the Jedi and the Force, but I can't exactly remember.
That seems like that was done in Rebels with Ezra. So
Yeah,
they're trying to
exactly.
Find, like,
Which
the
I
Sith
think-
holocron, which I think was probably where
Yeah.
they went with it. When
I think was probably what they took from it. But all 3 films were planned.
right.
But obviously, yeah, they went
I
different
don't know how I
directions.
feel about that, to be honest, because I feel like Darth Maul would have been ancient by that point. Now I understand that, like,
Oh, he would have
Clone
been,
Wars would have
yeah.
changed the way that story played out anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer what they did. I mean, I like George Lucas's ideas for the sequel trilogy. There's a lot of like things there, but I'm sure I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looked and sounded good, but I'm not sure. Like little elements like that,
Yeah.
like Darth Maul
Whether it
versus
would have
Leia.
worked or
I
not,
was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There probably would have been extra stuff behind it to do with
Sounds a bit-
the dark side of the
I don't
Force
know,
and
this is-
aging and stuff like that. But
Yeah, probably.
yeah.
But yeah, no. What's your theory
Back
with
to-
Bad Batch? Because I'm curious.
I
now.
think so. In episode 2 of the Bad Batch, minor spoilers
Yeah, of
for
course.
episode 1 and 2. Just like so the whole point of Omega is she's Omega as she says. She's meant to be a defective clone like the Bad Batch. My prediction is, so first of all, she's the only, as far as I'm aware, the only female clone, or whether she's male, I don't know. I think she's a female clone. My prediction is that she's a Force-sensitive clone.
That would be
I
really
think that's
interesting.
I think that's her defective trait.
I mean, they said in episode 2 that every clone is made for a purpose, even the defective ones.
Yeah.
So what
That's-
is
so,
her
yeah,
purpose? It couldn't
that's
have been.
my-
There's something like, oh, she's just like a medic. I think that is a ploy. There's 16 episodes in this series, and I think there's definitely
Is
room
there?
to develop. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize there was 16. I didn't know how
16,
many there was.
yeah.
So it's like a proper full-on.
Yeah,
animated.
basically. I mean, I have to say, like, I was a bit wary about it going in, but it got me straight away with the Clone Wars intro, showing a bit of
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith. I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
And Caleb as well.
Yes.
That's what got me straight away.
When
showing
Caleb came in, I was like, that's brilliant. And I looked back at the finale of Clone Wars, and you can see in the very first episode of that sort of final 4-part arc,
Yeah.
there's one of the sort of opening scenes. You can see Caleb and his master at the hologram table being sent off to that
Wow.
planet. So I'm like, they knew what they were doing this whole time. Like they.
Wow.
I watched I've just stumbled upon it yesterday when I was like going through Disney Plus. I was like, I'm gonna rewatch a bit of that and see what that would like. And when I watched that intro, I was like, first of all, this is brilliant. Second of all, I've just realised that that's Caleb and
Yeah.
his master, the same.
I
same
didn't know
ones.
who was like doing the Bad Batch, and then the second that Caleb was on, I was like, alright, it's Dave Filoni.
Yeah,
It's,
it's
you just
Dave-
knew
it's Dave
straight away.
Filoni.
Yeah, it's Dave Filoni.
And then obviously Tarkin and Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
Like in episode 1,
yeah.
I was like,
Saul
wow.
Guerrero was a very good. Very
Yeah,
good,
I could see
good drop.
when it was like a small rebel group. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be Saw Gerrera.
He always makes it in.
Always
Always.
manages it.
He's always
I'll be
manages
interested to see.
get in.
I'll be
which
interested.
is-
The thing that I'm really interested with Bad Batch is to see how the cloning stuff worked, because there's that sort of really weird mystery between the Empire and the Republic, where it's it's not really made clear when the clones get phased out, and I'm kind of interested to see how they do that. And I think they're gonna
there is, like,
they're
an-
gonna do something really exciting.
there is an order that's executed, which is when alright the clones are gone. Whether they'll, I don't know when
They
in the
must do
timeline it
it.
is,
They must.
and I don't know whether it's early on. I know that it definitely happens, but I don't know when the timeline it is. So whether this season will cover it or a later season will cover it, or if they do later seasons, I don't know.
There probably will be more than one. I can expect us to be
yeah.
at least 3.
Yeah.
But
It's,
I'm anticipating it. I think it could be really dark to show them getting killed or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. That could be quite exciting. I'm enjoying it so far. I have to say, Omega is killing me a little bit.
Yeah.
When I find myself rooting for her to sort of go with the family, I'm like, okay, I realise I don't really like this character as much as I
I
thought
was
I
like-
did.
they were like, go with the family. I was like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't. But I was
Just
sitting
not
there. I was
gonna
like,
happen.
please.
Please just go.
Because I was like, you can come back in a few episodes' time. I know you're in the trailer, but you can come back in a few episodes' time. You don't have to be. So it's interesting, but I don't know. I think it's but it's Dave Filoni, so
Exactly.
I do trust
I
him.
don't. Yeah,
With-
I don't have any any hesitance. I fully trust.
With Rebels,
in Dave
Clone
Filoni, we
Wars,
trust.
and Mandalorian under his belt, as well as other shows that he's working on now with Star Wars, I kind of feel like he's definitely going to try and connect them. And the weird hints that we had in Mandalorian about cloning and stuff, I think there's an interesting thing there that could very easily be picked up. I'm still waiting to see Grogu in this series, mind. I'm like, every episode I'm like, where is he?
Oh my.
Where is he? I mean, we're not gonna,
I didn't even think about that.
It's just finished right after Order 66. I mean, we've got to know someone took him from that temple. He's around somewhere.
He's somewhere.
Where the hell is he? What's he doing? He's got to show up at some point because there's not going to be another TV show that sort of shows this era. But
the only stuff I know, like, so when the Bad Batch is set, obviously, like, you have Anakin's obviously with his Darth Vader with Palpatine. Obi-Wan's gone to Tatooine. Luke and Leia have gone off with the two separate families. Ahsoka is in hiding on a planet that's a distant area.
Right.
Because it's in the book. I read the book.
Right.
Ahsoka Stan, obviously.
Wow.
And then we don't know where Cal is. I'm assuming Caleb's gonna come into it at some point again.
Probably.
I would assume he's gonna.
I'm not sure about that. I like the idea of it, but I'm also a bit hesitant because it's very clearly like a sort of 30, 40-year-old man's voice on a child's body, which is kind of weird.
It was kind of
It was
weird.
quite jarring, but I could tell who the character was.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it was. It was
Straight
funny
away,
watching reaction videos of people who hadn't seen Rebels, which I think is a travesty anyway. If you're going to be reacting to Bad Batch on YouTube and you haven't seen the other animated shows, it seems a bit weird. But they're going like, "Oh, this guy sounds weird." It's like, yeah, because it's a character that already exists. Like, watch the fucking show.
It was brilliant though, like the way it was done. Like his master's death, it's exactly how it's described in Rebels.
Yeah.
Because when he meets certain people and they try and prey on that, or you abandoned your master, you did this, that, and the other, you left it to die, which is exactly how they show it in Bad Batch.
Exactly. And I think that's brilliant. I think it was brilliantly done. And yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Phantom Menace before we take our first sort of break on this episode?
I still prefer to Attack of the Clones.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely my second favourite out of the three, which is not saying much.
Doubt,
I'm not going to go on too much about CGI because Attack of the Clones is such a non-entity that like the only thing we really talk about is the CGI. So I'll probably go on about that a little bit. During that. But finally, for each of these films, I'm going to sort of ask a little question. Do you have a particular favourite sort of meme moment from these films? Because there's a lot of lines that have been memed to shit. Is there a particular favourite you have specifically from the Phantom Menace alone?
Oh, I don't know.
I can give you mine if you want.
I like the always bigger fish one.
That is mine.
I think that would probably have to be it.
It's ridiculous. I just love how
stupid
it is. It's such a visual representation of a metaphor that doesn't need to exist. So they're just going underwater. They could have had like this cool adventure. They get followed by a fish, which gets eaten by a bigger fish. And Liam Neeson looks directly into the camera and goes, "There's always a bigger fish." It's like, there's no need to have that line in there because we've seen it. Like, I've seen, there's a bigger fish which has eaten that fish. Saying there's always a bigger fish, it's like, that's just, you didn't need to, who are you talking to, Liam? Like,
it's the fact that he looks in the camera and
there's always a bigger fish. It's like, it's the best line for me, the best meme line.
Without a doubt.
I can't really think of any others, really, other than
I can't think of any others, because I feel like the next two are the ones where...
Oh, spinning, that's a good trick. Now this is pod racing. There is quite a few in the Phantom Menace.
This is pod racing.
I mean,
are we allowed to say that Anakin falling in love with Padme? Are we allowed to say that's just a massive meme for the entire show?
Yeah.
Because it just is.
Yeah.
Oh god. The pod racing's up there as well.
I'll mention the pod racing.
That's a classic.
That was good. The pod racing, I actually liked
pod racing's class.
The pod racing bit. I didn't used to, but I actually really liked that. I thought that was quite fun, and it was like high speed, and the music was great. The music was great. Actually, the music's great for all these films.
Oh,
but
Duel Fates. We just have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see Dave Filoni talking about Duel of Fates on The Mandalorian behind the scenes?
Yeah.
So good.
Yes, I did.
Good. When he was like,
I did, yeah.
He's explaining why this is such a pivotal moment, why it's the Duel of the Fates, because they're not battling for each other, they're battling for the fate of Anakin, of what his path will lead to. If Qui-Gon dies, the only Jedi that believes in him, he'll become Darth Vader. And if Qui-Gon lives, he'll become like the most powerful Jedi of all time, and it'll bring balance to, well, not bring balance to the galaxy, but it'll, all that sort of thing. He'll be a great Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I thought that was a really, really great sort of breakdown. But that is, I think, everything I kind of want to say about the Phantom Menace, unless there's anything that you want to bring up now.
Nothing that I can think
No,
of.
Bosnas is great, and that's about it.
Yeah,
we'll
there we go.
see you after the first little break we got here, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Cooper about his choice for the record spinner, as well as talking about Attack of the Clones. So, see you in a minute. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Star Wars Prequels episode of Spill Your Beans. Now we're going to be talking about Attack of the Clones, but just before we do, I'm going to be talking to Cooper about his choice for the record spinner. So, I did ask you to prepare a few things, but this is basically what this little segment is. The record spinner. I'm going to ask you to pick a particular, one standout film soundtrack. If you could not listen to any other film soundtracks ever again, you had to listen to this one. You can either pick a soundtrack or you can pick a single track from a film. It's totally up to you. But, yeah, that's that. What is the one that you think you'd pick? Out of everything, the one that, stands out. Feel free to have a think, but yeah, one soundtrack or one track, totally up to you.
I haven't done this for this episode, but mine would genuinely be Duel of Fates.
Wow, okay.
I genuinely haven't done this just for the episode. That would generally be my answer. I find myself walking down the street or walking in school or just sitting in the house and just literally just doing the just singing it. That's I'm no word of a lie. You can ask my girlfriend. There's times when we're just sitting there and I'll just start humming it, or I'll just out of nowhere just start singing it.
That was really kill the mood, wouldn't it?
Oh well, obviously. There's a video that's just got of when I made her, well not made her, but we watched all the Star Wars films, and when we were watching Duel of Fates, there's me with a duvet, and I'm just walking down the stairs going.
Of course, that's the best way to enjoy these films.
Because it's so synoptic and it's so famous and it's so perfect and it's just amazing. Okay,
you've justified that choice. Then I think that's totally fair enough. Yeah,
I just I absolutely love it. I could sit and listen to it for hours and hours and hours.
Well, there we go then. That Duel of the Fates. That's your choice. Last week we had Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So we've got two classics for the first 2 episodes of this, and I'm very very happy with that decision. So that's great. So, moving on from that, that's brilliant. Attack of the Clones. Everyone's favourite Star Wars film. Now, I wish this was slightly better, just so I could say that Rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars film. But, despite how much I despise that film, I can't put it below this, because this is trash to me. I really want to like it because I love the Camino stuff. I just love the aesthetic of Camino, and not just because of the Lego games, but I think the John Williams score is incredible. Yeah. I think the visuals are really striking. I do hate the fact, however, with this film that 90% of it is CGI.
Yeah.
They just went ham on it, and you don't even need to half the time. You could have built a set for Camino. You didn't have to do all of it in CGI. I mean, they're all just white rooms.
Oh yeah,
you don't need
all blue. Yeah, they're literally just white rooms with blue screens.
But
then Revenge of the Sith is some of it as well, isn't it? But yeah.
But Revenge of the Sith is a bit better on it though. I feel like Phantom Menace was teasing, going, "Oh, should we do a bit of CGI? Ooh, a bit of CGI in there." Attack the Clones is let's just do. Yeah, but compare though, to Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. If you compare it to Attack of the Clones,
you got the Gungans, who are the sort of CGI characters, but the Trade Federation, and Darth Maul and all that sort of thing, they're all live action characters, prosthetics, all that sort of stuff. And the pod race and stuff, but it looks good. It doesn't look like trash.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad CGI.
But then you go to Attack of the Clones and every character, every set, every location is just all CGI. At least with Phantom Menace, they went to Tatooine and it was an actual desert. And I know they go there again in this film, but it's just it's just shit. It's so it is a long film. It really drags on.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I can't really say much good about it. I mean, I don't know. Feel free to jump in with...
The only connection I have to this film, and the only reason I kind of like it, doesn't have anything to do with the film. It's purely because of the Lego games.
Yeah,
And
well, same, yeah. I love when the Droid Factory bit comes on. I go, oh, I remember Droid Factory when I was playing that as a kid. But that's it. There's no...
The massive fight scene at the end, you remember it from the Lego games, not from the film.
And like...
It's like...
Yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? It's just a really weird
it's not...
film.
It's not a nice film. Even from right at the beginning with the attempted assassination and
That's
X, Y, and Z, the bounty hunter, and
weird story.
it's just
I mean, I think, like, again, it is a testament when you see these characters in newer properties. And when Tamara Morrison came back for The Mandalorian, for Boba Fett, you can just see how like good directing and good writing can really change a performance. It's not always about the performance, because Tamara Morrison in the prequels was shit. He's just like, I'm just a simple man making my way in the galaxy. It's just, what are you talking about? Like, that's just, come on. And I think it is. I try to like this film, but the dialogue's really disjointed. That scene specifically, actually, when Jango Fett meets Obi-Wan, the dialogue is so jarring.
Yeah,
it's like, well, I can't remember what it is now, but it's so like, it is bad. It's something along the lines of like, what, you know, who are you? What are you up to? Oh, I'm this person. Ever went to Camino? Not Camino. Ever went to Coruscant?
Yeah.
It was, I'm just a simple man making my way in the universe. What? Okay. Any normal person would be like, "The fuck are you talking about? What are you going on about? This isn't normal conversation."
Yeah.
Boba Fett must have been thinking, what?
Exactly.
What is going on? It's so weird, but you know, I want to like it, but I just can't. It's crap. I mean, let's get on to the Anakin stuff, because that's what people are probably waiting for.
Jesus.
Fucking hell.
I think Hayden Christensen in this film isn't ideal.
No, he's not great, is he? He's really not.
He's not great.
He could be better. He could be better.
Yeah, it's not a good representation of Anakin in his training era. It's not. No, it's just not.
One thing
good.
I will say is I like. You know what? I actually like Anakin when he's not with Padme in this film. I know that's a hot take, but like the opening, I mean, that's a bit shit actually. What I mean is, specifically, I quite like the bit where he goes and like kills all the Tusken Raiders and like saves his mum. That's really well done. And then he comes back to Padme. He's like, I killed them all, the women and the children. And it's just really like, oh no.
I forgot about that scene.
Yeah, and Padme would just break up with him right there. Like, she wouldn't even pursue anything like that. It's like, she is a senator. She's got a high reputation, and she's like, I'm just gonna date this like genocidal mental case who's just murdered all these like women and children. Yeah, they're Tusken Raiders, but like, it doesn't matter. They're still people, aren't they? They're still living, breathing things. If Anakin went and killed loads of dogs, it would still be bad. You know what I mean?
I completely forgot about the women and children scene.
How did you forget about that? It's one of the most...
There's so many memes in this, and there's just so many moments that are just chaotic.
Yeah. I mean, Revenge of the Sith is worse with that, but there is a lot of memes in this one. I'm trying to think. We'll get to that in a bit, but I mean,
this film. Yeah. This is my least favorite. Like, out of all the Star Wars films and prequels, all Star Wars films, this is my least favorite.
You know, the thing is with this, right? This would be a better film if they made a special edition and upgraded the CGI. Genuinely, would be so much better. And I know that's like, you can't fix dialogue, you can't fix shit like that. Someone made a fan edit of this film. I only know of this because it was in like someone else's YouTube review, so I haven't actually seen this fan edit. But it was something like they trimmed the fat and managed to cut away about half an hour from the film, and it still works.
Wow.
They added like a ad-lib bit of dialogue in where, I can't remember what her name is, the bounty hunter at the beginning, when she's like dying. She just says, "Oh, Camino system," which cuts out the whole story of like the whole like subplot of like Obi-Wan searching the Jedi library, Dexter's bloody diner restaurant thing. Don't have to have that shit. So he just goes straight to Camino. The death stick scene happened before that. This is that. You know Obi-Wan's friend with his like 4 arms, and he's like,
I just couldn't remember when it is.
You need to go to Camino. It smells like Camino. Well, like, It's weird, yeah. The Death Sticks is that's a great line. I love that.
No, the whole film's just chaotic, and
it is chaotic.
there is a lot. Phantom Menace has unnecessary dialogue, but Attack of the Clones has even more unnecessary dialogue. You don't need women and children.
Yeah.
You don't need what you've just said about the hunting around the Jedi Library.
Yeah, you don't need
all
that.
the archives incomplete. You don't need that at all. There's so much of it that you just don't need.
Yeah, it is lacking in a lot of areas, mainly story and entertainment, which are usually two quite big factors when you're making a film. It could be a lot better. I'm trying to think of the things to actually say about this film. There's not really anything there. The one thing I will praise this on, and the one thing I will give George Lucas credit for, God forbid, is that he stuck to his guns. Because the Phantom Menace isn't great. Attack of the Clones is terrible. But I actually really like Revenge of the Sith. And I think a lot of people do, and we'll get onto that. But the thing I will say is that if he'd taken the Disney approach and tried to frantically damage control and change it, we wouldn't have even had Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he's built a world, he's got a story, and he's going to bloody stick to it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that actually. That he completely stuck to his guns.
He stuck to his guns no matter what, and we ended up getting actually quite a good film. I know all three of these films are a bit shit, but actually, low key, I get so much more enjoyment out of this aesthetic and this era of Star Wars than I do with any other era. I like the Empire stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love the original trilogy. They are the better films because they are actually good films. But the aesthetic of the prequels is something really nice. And if they ever, please, Disney, commission an upscaling, a remaster, something like that. Because you improve the CGI in these films, you're going to have significantly better films. Put it on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
Put it on Disney Plus only, and people will enjoy it more. People will always have the DVD versions and all that sort of thing of the original edits. Just change it, update. Put some money towards it. You've got CGI artists who I'm sure will be willing to do that because. How exciting would that be? We've already had special editions of the original trilogy, which no one needed. I mean, that was just ridiculous. It didn't need to be updated. We didn't need that. And I'm sure we'll end up getting onto that if we ever talk about the original trilogy. But, with the prequels, they just look like shit. So actually upgrade them. Nah, we'll just leave them. Why? Upgrade them. Do something. Change it. Edit it down. Make the films work better as well. Don't let a fan edit be your legacy of the best version of this film. Upgrade it. Do some CGI replacements. And YouTubers out there, YouTubers making projects and doing CGI stuff, make some CGI adjustments to this film or The Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith. Either or, they look like ass. Do something. There's a market there, and I don't understand why it's not being tapped into. Anyway, rant over. Yeah, no, Attack of the Clones, it's shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's chaotic. It's quite necessary, quite pointless in places.
Yeah, I like certain scenes, but beyond that, I mean, I like Count Dooku. Yeah, even if he does nothing, I like him, and I like the end scene where he meets Palpatine on the other side of Coruscant. And you got that music playing, and you got the Imperial March that plays when the clones are made. That's all really cool. I just don't know how I feel about certain elements of it. I mean, the romantic subplot just doesn't feel realistic. There's no way that Padme would date him after all of that, after all the creepy staring, the sorry, milady, all that sort of stuff. It's just really weird, and I don't really know what else to say. I'm trying to think about what stuff to say about Attack of the Clones, but actually this is going to be a really...
What about fight scenes? Alright,
fight scenes. I mean, fight scenes?
There's Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. There's Yoda versus Count Dooku.
Where that famous screech came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Yoda just flipping about.
Yeah,
CGI Yoda.
Yoda. And
CGI
poor
Yoda
Christopher Lee
about.
trying to just swing a stick around frantically, not knowing where he's looking.
God, he just doesn't look.
Yeah, he doesn't have a clue. I think the fight scenes in this are terrible.
Oh yeah, they're.
I mean, you can talk about choreography all you want, but when you're having a lightsaber fight and you include 10 seconds worth of shots of just a close up of Anakin and Count Dooku just swinging in front of their face, I'm like, what the That's not a lightsaber fight. That's what a kid does at Disneyland with a light stick. It's pointless.
Yeah,
just swinging it in
is.
front of your face, going. It's just. I know that's not what they're doing, but like it looks like that's what they're doing, and that's the point. Because the one thing that you have to do in a film is, make it look like what's happening is happening. If you can't even make it look like that's happening, then you just failed the first step of making a bloody film.
I feel like you saying me saying fight scenes, and you go what fight scenes just basically says.
Yeah, the
everything.
Jedi attack on the arena. That's cool. I like seeing.
It's cool, but not done well.
I don't mind it. I like seeing all the Jedi. I like seeing.
It's cool.
I like seeing Sam Jackson threaten Count Dooku and Jango Fett. That's always really cool. It's like the party's over. I love that. That's great. And then when he beheads Jango, that's all brilliant as well.
The best thing, and I will stick to this gun. The best thing to come out of this film is the story about Samuel L. Jackson saying he wants to be seen in that scene, and that's why he got the purple lightsaber.
That's
the
that
best
is
thing.
Brilliant. And
that's the best thing to come out of this film. I will stick to that gun.
I do love that. That is brilliant, to be honest. That story is fantastic.
And he goes, I want a purple one. And he goes, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, because he just threatens George Lucas.
Literally.
So, we don't do that. We only have green and blue. And he's like, I want a purple one. I want a purple one. Give me a purple one. I want a purple one. I want to stand out. And George Lucas is like, oh, okay. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. That was just made up just for that because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber. I think that's brilliant. Have you seen Sam Jackson's been sharing stuff as well with the hashtag Mace Lives?
No.
On social media. He's been doing it. He's been doing it for ages, but he's still keeping it up. Yeah. Bless him. He's still carrying on. He's wearing Mace Windu t-shirts and stuff on his Instagram. Bless him.
That's cool. I kind of rate that. That's
I'd like him.
Cool.
I'd like him to come back. I don't know how, but
I would as well.
They'd have to retcon the shit out of it, but I would love them to. Because
it's just obviously we'll talk about when we get Revenge of the Sith because
of course, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to say about Revenge of the Sith, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think since we're basically stuck with what to say about Attack of the Clones because it's so shit, we'll quickly mention favorite meme of this film.
Sand. That's
a classic.
It's the best. It's the best meme of. It's one of my favorites. I hate sand. It's coarse. It's rough, and it gets everywhere. Hands down.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. It's so unnecessary.
It's brilliant.
And it's in such a weird spot of the film.
I hate sand. But it's great. He's great.
It's so brilliant.
I don't know what my favourite is. I think there's loads of them. I do quite like the Jango Fett one. It's like, I'm just a simple man making my way in the universe. I think that's brilliant.
Does he say that in Mandalorian?
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
because he says a similar thing. He comes back and he goes, "I'm just a simple man making my way in the galaxy." I'm like, I know
because it asks who it is. Yeah,
they do the thing.
Yeah,
it's good. It's like in Bad Batch when they were like, "He's more machine than man." I'm like, "Oh, that's good. That's good." Yeah, it's like Star Wars loves to reference itself all the time, and I love it. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think what else there is in Attack of the Clones. There actually isn't as many as I thought there was, to be honest, in terms of memes.
The Scream, which I guess counts.
Well, yeah, but that was memed by Lego, wasn't it? That wasn't really memed by this film. That was just taken out of context. But it's a great little moment. The thing is, we're going to struggle when we get to Revenge of the Sith because there's so many. I mean,
I know exactly what mine is for Revenge of the Sith already.
I'm sure.
Because I quote it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. There's so many that I love.
We'll get to that.
I can't really think about Attack of the Clones. Maybe the Jango Fett one.
There's the Jango Fett one. There's coarse, rough, gets everywhere. Women and children.
Yeah, that's a classic.
That's one as well. That's a classic as well.
It seems the archives are incomplete. That's a bit shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's in it as well.
It's not really memorable as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then that sums up the whole film, isn't it? Not really as memorable. I watched it not too long ago, about half a year ago, and I forgot it already. So that says a lot. We were going to take a break before going on to the next segment, but I think we might just do the next segment right now and then spend longer talking about Revenge of the Sith, because to be honest, Attack of the Clones is such a non-entity. There's not really much to say about it. It's both of our least favourites. I think we've basically got the same list for this.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones worst, Phantom Menace, then Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And this is shit. So, we're going to take a sort of little meander over to and this is a fantastic name that I'm very happy with because it's very elaborate, but the 64K Ultra Mega High Definition range. This is a significant range, Cooper. This is a range where only the most elite tier films get put onto this range. It's not Blu-ray, it's not Steelbook, it's not 4K, it's not whatever it is, Criterion Collection or whatever. It's this new range, this Ultra HD. It's more high definition than anything you've ever seen. The sound is crisp, and it's brilliant. But we can only put one film in there. So I'm going to ask, what film would you put, if you had the choice, into the 64K Ultra Mega High Definition range?
My film would be, and it is my favourite film of all time. It will always stand. It is. I can watch it as many times as I want, and I never get bored of it. It makes me cry every single time without fail. It is Forrest Gump. It is a masterpiece of a film. It has comedy. It has emotion. If you haven't seen it, it's Tom Hanks. I absolutely love it.
That is no surprise at all, because I know how much you love that film. There
are films that it's not the best film of all time. There are films that are better. I have watched better films, but there are films that I probably like more than Forrest Gump. But Forrest Gump sits so well with me and it will always be like it's just up there and it just can't be moved. Like, just everything about it, even the music, the music's so synoptic with the film. Everyone, if you've seen the film, the accent, that Tom Hanks is, even like the stories to do with the film and stuff, like the behind the scenes, it's all perfect. I absolutely love it. I could watch it 1,000 times over and not get bored.
I've only seen it once, and I watched it last year for the first time. It's brilliant, isn't it? It is a fantastic film.
Yeah.
There's not really much I can say about it, but it's fantastic.
It's been my favourite film for years.
It is. Like, it's the life of someone. And I love that when films can tell that sort of story, and it's really engaging to that degree. It doesn't surprise me at all. That's like the film you pick.
Yeah.
But again, that it's up there for anyone. I think that's not going to be the first. That'll not be the last time it's mentioned on this podcast, probably. I think there's a lot of people out there who love that film.
It's just a wonderful film.
It is a wonderful film. It is really good. Yeah.
It's just so wholesome.
It's fantastic.
It's just great.
I
absolutely love it.
I couldn't agree
can't
more.
fault it.
And I kind of knew you were going to say that. I should have prepared some more notes.
Anyone who knows me. Anyone who knows me. But it's rule number one is you've always got to have a top 3 films prepared, because anyone can ask you that. It's a perfect question. Always.
That's true. But yeah, on that lovely note about Forrest Gump, we're going to take another little short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Revenge of the Sith, as well as talking about some hot takes from you guys on Twitter, as well as some general summary reviews of the whole prequels. You know, where they went right, where they went wrong, all that sort of thing. See you in a minute. Welcome back to the final part of our Star Wars Prequels Spill Your Beans podcast review type thing. That was all in the wrong order, but it doesn't matter, you get the point. So to now, what the fuck am I talking about? I'm going to do that again. Jesus Christ. To now? Fuck me. Oh my god. Right, this is a mess.
It's the prequels, it's like...
Yeah, that's true. Welcome back to the final part of our Star Wars Prequels review here on the Spill Your Beans podcast. We're now going to be talking about Revenge of the Sith. We've talked about Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and now we're talking about the best of the 3, which I'm sure not many people will disagree with. It is a bit of a step up, Revenge of the Sith, isn't it?
It's a massive step up.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's great. And not just in terms of meme content, but like in terms of actual like story. Now, yeah, this does so much more than the previous films. It takes the politics angle and it does something interesting with it. With Palpatine's rise to power. Palpatine's actually he doesn't give a shit anymore. He's just evil, and I love that. He's so obvious. He basically just tells Anakin that he's a Sith Lord, and Anakin's just too stupid to realise. Yeah. I just love it. He just starts off. He's
Yeah,
like, "Can I
he
tell
does.
you a story that no Jedi would be able to tell you about a Sith? Yeah, this is
About
a
a
Sith
Sith.
legend. Can I tell you this
Yeah.
Sith legend that I just happen to know?"
That I just happened to have stumbled across.
It is good though. I think the downsides come from there's only a couple of scenes that I don't like in this film really, and that's usually Anakin and Padme, like where she goes, oh, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, you look so beautiful. She's like, it's only because I'm so in love. No, it's horrible. I hate that line. It's really grim. It just doesn't sit right with me at all. It's just like that's just horrible. What? No, don't say that. You ruined that. Yeah. So, what is Revenge of the Sith? I mean, what can be said about it that hasn't already been said? It's one that it's not a great film if you're looking in films objectively, but as a Star Wars film, it is incredibly entertaining, and I'm really sticking to that word entertaining because it's not necessarily good. It's very entertaining for some right reasons, but also some wrong reasons as well.
Wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think that like the humor is so good in this, not just because it's been memed, but it is funny. Like this is a funny
It
film.
is a funny film. It is.
Whether it's intended to be or not, I'm not sure. But memes have kind of ruined it a little bit. What do you think about that? Because I mean that's
Revenge of the Sith is my favourite Star Wars film. It's not the best, don't get me wrong.
I think it's mine.
Far
to
from
be
the
honest.
best.
I think it's my favourite.
I
personally.
will say that it is my favourite Star Wars film, from like the story through the entire film, from the betrayal to the meme. The memes definitely put it up there. But the I feel like the memes carry it a bit.
A little bit.
Because,
When you get a bit bored of
Yeah.
things, there's a new meme. Especially in that first half an hour. Oh my god. There's about
Yes.
like 20 just in that first thing. Like when they're flying to the ship, there's that oh no, this is where the fun begins. You've got the bit where it's like where they land in the hangar bay. It's like, oh, it's a trap. What's the next plan of action? Spring the trap. Oh god. And Count Dooku, there's about 3 or 4 lines back and forth. That all of them are like memes individually. It's like
it's
my powers are double since the last time we met, Count. Good, twice the pride, double the fall. Oh, it's just. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
And of course the infamous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Oh well.
Good.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
do it.
I'm gonna do it. I mean, it has to be done. It's
It has to
a
be done.
fantastic. It is a brilliant scene, and the thing is, jokes aside, I love it. I know it's
I do.
jokey,
I think
it's
it's brilliant.
memes, whatever, and that is kind of why it's funny, because I love the fact that like 19, 20 odd years of Jedi training from Anakin can be sort of undone by just going do it. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, say what you
His
want,
whole
always
morals.
using the Force or whatever, but like he's like, oh no, I shouldn't kill this guy. It's not the Jedi way. We've got him on his knees. He's got no hands. He can't exactly do anything. Do it.
It's
That's
literally
it.
like
Okay, sure.
they're trained for however many years. You do not do this. You do
Yeah.
not do that. 2 words. 2 words.
But I think in a way you can spin that, and I think anything in this film you could spin into going, well, that makes sense, because I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
This shows Anakin's
Oh, yeah.
disobedience to the Jedi Order and
Yeah.
the Council, and how he trusts Palpatine more than he trusts his fellow Jedi.
And it's the
In one
beginning of
little
the spiral.
scene, and it is the beginning of that spiral.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, right, this
Yeah.
guy's willing to do what I say. He's willing to just kill someone like that.
I absolutely love it as a film. I think from beginning to end, it's entertaining, but also like the story carries as well. Obviously, there's the odd Padme and Anakin scene, which I'd agree, which is a bit
But
out
there's so
there.
much
But,
less of them in this film. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
and just the entire story around it,
Mm.
and especially because, obviously, with the ending being Darth Vader and
Of course,
leading
of
into
course.
the originals, it kind of takes what the 2 previous films were attempting to build up with like Anakin and stuff, but you can watch Revenge of the Sith and you'd understand the entire thing. Like,
Yeah.
not that it writes off the previous 2 films, but
You can watch it
It's
without
done
you can
so
watch it
well, yeah.
without being part of like a trilogy. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's done so well that it could be there to stand alone.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely, it is brilliant. I genuinely really like this film. I mean, it's not, again, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, especially like the way it's shot and the CGI and the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It is a bit trashy in places,
Yeah.
but it is actually quite well made. The story is actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Because if this was
yeah.
done by like, if the same like, not same script, but if the same exact story was done like in the style of the Clone Wars, people would call it an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
It is. The story is good. Just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
acting and the dialogue lets it down a little bit, as well as the
Yeah.
CGI. I don't mind it though. I actually like
I
General
don't either.
Grievous, even though he's a bit of a
I love General Grievous. I think he's
a bit of an idiot.
brilliant.
But
Yeah, it's and yeah.
they sort of
But
retcon bits and bats here and there. I mean, I don't know if it's canon anymore, but the original Clone Wars, the 2D one.
It is still canon.
That's still canon?
Sure. I'm pretty sure
Because
it is.
I
Yeah.
thought it was, but I wasn't really sure. Only because it's like
I'm
the
sure.
Clone Wars, like, you know, the Clone Wars that we all know. That is like it almost sort of takes place like already a significant amount of time after Attack of the Clones, with a few story
Last
elements
time
already decided. Like
Last time I checked, it was still canon, the 2D one.
yeah, because they've added it to
I'm pretty sure.
Disney Plus as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not really
Yeah, I'm
sure
pretty-
because
yeah.
it's sort of like
I'm pretty sure it is.
they have like, the whole General Grievous thing, of course, in the 2D animation
yeah.
where Mace Windu like force like crushes his like chest unit, and that's why he's like coughing so much in these films. That's why he's not as good as he used to be. But like that was never done in the new Clone Wars, so I kind of just take that as canon. But if that is the key, I just don't know why they made him like coffee and shit. Make him like an actual
Got no
decent
idea.
villain.
Yeah, I don't know why he coughs and everything, because Revenge of the Sith was done after all the Clone Wars stuff as well. So unless they had it pre-prepared.
Why did he have to be like hunched over? Because he was
Yeah.
like they made the Clone Wars 2D thing between Attack the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but they had everything planned out. They knew they were going to
okay.
introduce General Grievous, but like why didn't they just make him a cooler character,
Normal.
not like
Yeah.
coughing all the time and like just wheezing? It just makes him seem
Yeah.
really shit because he's not even in the film that long.
He's still a cool villain though. I think that if you're
Yeah.
a kid and you see the 4 lightsabers, you're like, yo.
Yeah, that was kind of cool when he starts like, swinging them at
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, and obviously you got that scene, the infamous. Just, I mean, I'll let you say it if you want to say it.
Wait, hang on. I've got to prepare myself for it. I've got to prepare myself. Hello there.
Brilliant. There we go. And that's
love it.
it's a
I
fantastic
absolutely
scene. I love that. I feel myself saying that about a lot of scenes in this. It's like, oh, it's a fantastic scene. That's brilliant. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
Because that's
yeah.
basically what this film is. It's not a great film, but it has a lot of great scenes in it, usually back to back.
Oh yeah.
The final act of the film is phenomenal. Anakin's turn to the dark side, despite quite quick, I think is justified. I think it works.
Yeah.
I think it's entertaining. I think Palpatine is absolutely wonderful in this film. You know, if you
Yeah,
know
he's
me,
done really, really
you know
well.
I love that character. But I think generally, I still get impressed about how like fun that character is. Like he's just evil. There's no reason for it. There doesn't have to be a reason for it. This guy is just evil. He's a horrible piece of shit, and he's manipulated everything, and now he's got his way. And you know how rewarding that is, especially after watching the Clone Wars. It's incredibly rewarding to see this, like,
Yeah.
the performance really capture that. Even when the Clone Wars didn't exist, this performance is fantastic. Ian McDiarmid is having a whale of a time playing Palpatine. He clearly always loves it because he just gets to be this evil bastard for about like 2 hours every time. It's brilliant, and I have to give it credit where it's due. Like that is the big crux of the film for me. Like Palpatine's rise to power is dark and probably some of my favourite stuff in Star Wars. That the events surrounding Revenge of the Sith, the rise to power, Order 66, that is like my favourite bit of Star Wars. I think it's so exciting and impactful and sort of unheard of. You couldn't really do that again. You know what I mean?
It's a Star Wars film. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a great example of a Star Wars film. Like from the writing to the score.
Yeah.
To
the music.
just the
Oh my
pure,
god. The
yeah.
music's wonderful
Yeah.
in this actually. Yeah.
It's absolutely
It's-
great, and the final arc is from Order 66. Like that era is my favorite, like the prequel era. But Order 66 hands down takes the cake. It's just
Yeah, I mean that's sort
so
of my
brilliant.
thing with it as well. Is it is brilliant. The whole Order 66 thing and that era of Star Wars. And as we said, it's why I like the prequels so much. Is we do trash them. I mean, they are bad films. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones leave a lot to be desired. Revenge of the Sith is pretty good, but it's still a bit shit. The thing which works about all of them is that it's the aesthetic, it's the world building, it's a sort of thing of, it's a filmmaker who's stuck to his guns and he's delivered something. It doesn't matter whether it's good or not. Like, he's put it out there, and yes, it's shit, but it still feels, weirdly, it feels like the most Star Warsy thing. Like, for me, when I watch Revenge of the Sith, that is Star Wars. I don't feel that as much when I watch the original trilogy, and I know that's just personal preference with like whoever ever, but it doesn't matter. Like, for me, when I watch Revenge of the Sith, that to me just feels like Star Wars, and it just feels so right. Yeah. And I know that's, again, it's not a great film, definitely not the best in the series, but for me, it hits the nail on the head in so many places that I just can't help but absolutely adore it. And it's the easiest watching one as well, actually. I think just putting it on and just sitting, you can just sit and have a drink with that one and just take the piss. It's a brilliant film. However, what I will say is just a little side thing. If anyone is looking for a new way to watch Revenge of the Sith, there's a fantastic fan edit which I watched recently. 4 hours, and it cuts together the final Clone Wars arc in chronologically in the right order with Revenge of the Sith, creating a sort of 4 hour epic which takes place over basically the Siege of Mandalore, the stuff with Darth Maul, Ahsoka, Rex, alongside Revenge of the Sith, all happening at the same time, all coming to the same way. I wouldn't say it's the best way to watch the Clone Wars episodes or Revenge of the Sith, but I would say if you're familiar with both and you're fans of both and you haven't seen this edit, watch it. It's brilliant. I sat through it. Yes, it's 4 hours, but you'll have more fun than you probably would have done with the Snyder cut, and that's all I'm going to say on that. It's brilliant. It is a really, really well done edit done by a YouTuber. I presume there's probably going to be a newer version released soon, with the Bad Batch stuff.
It's if you're the Clone Wars, because the original Clone Wars doesn't touch on anything really to do with Order 66. Obviously, there's the hints and stuff dropped throughout it. And obviously, it's kind of set more towards the Revenge of the Sith than it is Attack of the Clones in places. But the last arc, the last, 4 episodes, are 4 of the best episodes or best Star Wars content that I've ever watched.
That's the best Star Wars film, really. That last 4 episodes. Of Clone Wars into one. You watch them all in one. That is the best Star Wars film to me.
Yeah.
That final Clone Wars story is just wonderful in so many places. It captures exactly what Star Wars should be. It takes place alongside one of my favorite Star Wars films. So that, and I think it's a good film. It's a film that you love. That when that Clone Wars stuff came up, and you saw the hints of Revenge of the Sith, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. That's what it's like. Okay, you love that film when even just slight hints and references make you go, oh, that's so good.
No matter what you're watching or you're reading or whatever kind of Star Wars content, if you hear or see execute Order 66, you know that you're gonna have a good time. Yeah, it's that line. It's just that line. The
Fallen Order game again. There's a sort of an Order 66 sequence in it, like a flashback, and that's brilliant.
I've completely forgot about that. Yeah.
And again with Bad Batch and Clone Wars and anything that covers Order 66, it always ends up going really well because it's just such a memorable part of Star Wars history. And as much as I love the original trilogy, I actually think the prequels delivers this huge event, which I don't think's been done again and can be done again. I think it's brilliant in itself, but. That's where, and again, I'm not trying to talk about the sequel trilogy because I'm sure at some point we'll talk about that, but the sequel trilogy, this is where they should have went with it. They should have tried to top that. They should have done something that was bigger than that. But you can't do bigger and better than Order 66 in the world of Star Wars. Order 66 is the Avengers Endgame for Star Wars. It's that sort of huge moment that it actually is, because it echoes through all the different media.
That event,
when you watch Marvel TV shows now, it's sort of like, oh, the snap, the blip or whatever, though they were away for 5 years, and that's always like a story element that keeps bringing up with the characters in The Mandalorian, Rebels, the original trilogy, everything. Everyone is still suffering because of Order 66 and what happened there. The creation of the Empire is such a shattering event that it works. It works so bloody well.
It all reflects back to
exactly.
Yeah, it all reflects what you were saying through all of the originals is about what happened to Order 66 and trying to repair that damage, and then the sequels are obviously it's kind of something happens in between that, which is kind of like a mini Order 66 with Luke running away and stuff like that. But still, like, they still suffer from Order 66. Like, it is long-lasting damage through the entirety of Star Wars. I think the originals are absolutely outstanding films, and they're great Star Wars films. But Revenge of the Sith, it's not a very good film, but it's an absolutely outstanding Star Wars film.
Yeah, you're very right there. I think it's the best for me, the most entertaining Star Wars film. And yes, there are memes. Yes, there are jokes. Yes, it's funny in places, but it works. The lightsaber fights are brilliant.
Yeah.
The story is great. It has all the elements of just exactly what you want out of a Star Wars film. It's what I wish Rise of Skywalker could have done. And that's...
I'm much of a Anakin in this film as well.
Yeah, Anakin's pretty good in this
compared to Attack of the Clones.
And it makes me excited. It makes me excited to see the Obi-Wan series, because again with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, that's going to be interesting. You know, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do with that. And fingers crossed it ends up working and it ends up being a hit, because it'll be like a limited series. It'll be like WandaVision or something. It'll be like a one-off thing. Yeah. But I'm excited for it. Like that it's just going to be good. I don't know what they're going to do with the whole things, but looking at the cast, it's like they could definitely do like a Clone Wars flashback, and that's just going to make me so happy if they do that.
Which will just be unreal.
Yeah,
it'll just be unreal.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else there is to say about Revenge of the Sith, to be honest. I think we've really covered it. It is a brilliant film. It's a huge step up from the previous two. It's definitely both of our favourites out of this trilogy, and maybe even the saga. But yeah, I think it stands out to me, and I know it's like everyone says it's like, oh yeah, you just everyone's so bloody like nostalgic over it, and it's just like it's not a great film, and people saying it's a good film, it's just like because it's a nostalgic value. There's a bit of that, but actually I'm not saying it's a good film, you know what I mean? It's not about that. But can I just switch my brain off and sit and watch it and just have a laugh and enjoy, like, just going a bit brain dead for 2.5 hours and watching mindless space violence? If I'm going to do that with any of the Star Wars films, because, let's be honest, more than half of them are dumb and shit.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to pick one to go on that I can just switch my brain off and just watch, it will be this one every single day of the week. It is brilliant for that. And
it's like a film for if someone was to say, like, I'm a fan of films, what Star Wars films should I watch? I'd say watch the originals. Yeah. Because they're good films to watch. But if you're a Star Wars fan, Star Wars fans appreciate Revenge of the Sith, because as awful as it is at times and as memey as it is, it's the context within inside of it and what happens. It's so much fun. It's a Star Wars fan
so much fun, and
it's fun to watch. Yeah.
And on the topic of fans and all that sort of thing, we'll come on to your guys' hot takes from Twitter. I asked you a while ago about any hot takes and generally interesting thoughts on the films, so we'll read through those now. Cal says, it's an underrated trilogy of films that gets more slander than they deserve and are at worst just completely mindless fun. Sorry, hang on 1 minute. I should try and read that out properly. Get more slander than they deserve and are at worst just completely mindless. Complete mindless fun, and at best a great insight into how even the people with the most noble causes can be seduced by those that seek to use that against them. That's a brilliant way of summing it up, to be honest.
It's a brilliant way of putting it.
It is. They are just mindless fun films, you know what I mean? And again, like saying that at its worst, that's what they are, and that's true. I don't know if I could say that too much for Attack of the Clones, because I'm not really a huge fan of that, and I do try to like it, but I do find myself getting very bored with that one, despite the fact that I do try and like it. A great insight to I think that's brilliant about Anakin's
entire
grace. It could have been done better, definitely, but like I definitely agree with how that's put. That's brilliant.
Anakin's morally right, but that morality is taken from him and twisted into darkness.
Yeah, the Jedi aren't perfect. The Jedi cause
No.
their own downfall, which, again,
Yeah.
we'll not get on to the sequel trilogy, but I love the fact that that's brought up in The Last Jedi. That's one of the best parts of it, because Luke accepting that the Jedi aren't perfect and did mess up and did cause the creation of the Empire and, like, millions of people to be killed.
Yeah.
That's something that should have been acknowledged. I'm glad it was. Someone said, Jack said, The Phantom Menace isn't that bad and better than Attack of the Clones and The Rise of Skywalker. What do you think about that?
I'm gonna have to agree.
Hey.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I kind of
not.
do. I think Rise of Skywalker is a better made film. Don't get me wrong. Like, the dialogue is better, but it is such a disappointment as a Star Wars film. And you're not watching these films because they're good films. I think Rise of Skywalker does. I mean, again, we'll talk about this again at a later date, I'm sure. But I don't hate The Rise of Skywalker, but it is the most disappointing, and I can't help but watch it and feel let down every time I do watch it. Despite how well made it is, the CGI is great, the dialogue's pretty good, but the story's just trash. So, yeah, The Phantom Menace is terrible, but
Rise of Skywalker to me.
I kind of do prefer it.
Rise of Skywalker is like my child. We went to see it at midnight release.
I remember,
and that's why it's kind of
yeah.
We went to see it at midnight release, and I absolutely loved it when I first watched it.
I remember.
And then as
I
time
remember
goes
when
on,
you first watched
I
it.
remember-
I remember you were so excited.
I
And I remember sitting there in the cinema, and the first 10 minutes I was like, I'm worried because this is not good already. This is like not.
I
got
just
me. The fact that
so I've seen it twice.
you see, I've
seen it
seen
twice.
it 3 times now.
Yeah, it's like my child, but I can't help being disappointed by that child. It's like only. It's so hard because like, I want to like it, and the only part that I can kind of take away from it is, and you know this because you've known me for years, is how much I preached for different color lightsabers
Yeah.
in the
The
films.
fact that that's the one thing you can say that
That's
you
the
like
one
about
thing
it.
I take
It's
out of
the
it.
final moment of the film, which again, even that is tarnished by Rey Skywalker.
Yeah, to not go, to go not too deep into it. And if you haven't seen it, spoilers.
Oh yeah.
But I remember being in the cinema, sitting next to you, and when Kylo and Rey kiss, I literally in the cinema
I
at like
remember.
1 a.m. I literally went, "What?" And I was like, "Oh
I forgot
my
you did that.
god!"
Yeah, you like audibly react. I just sort of chuckled because I'm
What?
like, I can't believe they did that.
I did that
It's-
moment. I was like,
It's mental. It's not like, again, this is something I'd love to talk about at a later date at some point in this podcast because I think we've both got a lot of very heavy thoughts about that film. I
makes
see
you
why
wanna cry.
people like it, but I also don't see why people like it at all because I feel like if you despise The Last Jedi, then Rise of Skywalker might be for you, but The Last Jedi is just a much, much better film. I'm sorry, but it is. I'm one of those people. I really like The Last Jedi. I can't, like, it's got flaws, but I really like it.
I
And
think
Rise
they're
of
going to
Skywalker-
send an order.
Yeah.
I think Force Awakens for me is like one of my favorite films because it's kind of what got me into the full on like no. There's a reason. It's not an amazing film. There are better films, but Force Awakens got me not into Star Wars, but got me heavily into Star Wars.
Right.
That's what caused me to start looking into,
Yeah.
and that's what caused me to start looking into more of the canon stuff. Like that got me to go back and watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels. Like it all stems from that. Obviously, I've been Star Wars fan for years, but
it's a nostalgic element almost.
yeah, it's the same thing with Phantom
Yeah.
Menace. Was the reason why I like Phantom Menace because it's a nostalgic thing.
Yeah, for me, I can't relate with that. I think The Force Awakens is shit. But no, I think it's good. I think it's bang average.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker, though, I think, yeah, it's
It's shit. Just say it with your chest.
yeah,
Come
it's
on.
shit.
Just
it is awful. I can't abide it. You know, yeah, but yeah, Phantom Menace I do enjoy more than Rise of Skywalker. I think that's all we'll say on that.
I do as
and
well.
Someone replied to that saying, "Thank God for Watto saving it." I appreciate that. That's good. Love for Watto. Jude has said, "I like how each prequel villain represents Anakin's failings." That's exactly what this is exactly what I was saying earlier. Maul gives up their freedom to an ideological cult. Dooku rejects order and fairness, embraces tyranny. Grievous loses the last vestiges of their human form, all three villains represent the creation of Darth Vader. I think that's brilliant. I don't think that was intentional, though, to be honest.
Did you see that in a YouTube video? Because have you seen the interview with Dave Filoni about the making of the second season of Mandalorian? He talks, or the first season, and he talks about the prequels, and I think he mentions that, or he mentions something along the line of that.
Something like that.
Like,
I saw it in like a video essay, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, but it's a good point to make. I like it.
Yeah.
Reverse the Polarity, great name, says they're just really fun, action-packed, and overall really enjoyable. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. Ewan McGregor is the standout as Obi-Wan Kenobi. The weakest part is probably Anakin in Attack of the Clones. That part about the sand is really odd. However, it concluded brilliantly with Revenge of the Sith. I couldn't agree more. McGregor is a standout. I think McDermott is also a standout, though. I think Palpatine really hits it for me. The big letdowns for this are definitely Anakin and Padme. Like Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen.
I'd say Anakin and Padme in Attack of the Clones, but then I'd say Padme in, or like the scenes when they're together, yes, but Anakin on his own in Revenge of the Sith, I'd say he's one of my favorites because I really enjoy him in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I'll be interested to see, and this is very separate now, but I'd be interested to see what Natalie Portman's like in Thor: Love and Thunder, because I don't think I've ever seen Natalie Portman in a film where I've went, "You're a really good actor." Not to be a dick, but I just don't really like her. Her performances always feel really just like she's not really trying. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what she does with like the direction of someone like Taika Waititi. That'll be interesting because in these films
she's going to be in a lot more than just Thor: Love and Thunder, though, from rumors and stuff.
How do you mean?
Have you not seen? Okay, spoilers. But the rumor is that she's going to be the new Thor.
Oh, well, she is.
So she's obviously going to be in a lot more than Thor: Love and Thunder then.
Well, yeah, maybe, or she might just piss off to a different universe. I don't know.
True.
I don't know. I think it'll be Thor will always still be Thor, but this is like the Jane Foster Thor from the comics.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's probably the only reason she came back, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what they do with it, what direction they go with that. But Thor will always be Thor for me. I like the idea of female Thor, but it's more like Natalie Portman. I'm a bit like, can you do a job as Chris Hemsworth? If you're going to pass the mantle on, you need to do a bloody good job of it. But yeah, and the final hot tip we've got is they're pretty much of their time. They represent the early 2000s very well. I do think they went a bit overboard with the CGI, but it's a nice comparison to see the more practical methods of the originals and the over-the-top CG of the prequels and the more refined nature of the sequels. Yeah, I think visually you're very right there. I don't think the storytelling in the sequels is great, but I like that the element of that they sort of knew what they were doing more with the visual elements. They used a lot more practical effects in the sequel trilogy, which I think is brilliant. A lot of puppetry, a lot of animation work like that was brilliant. Same with the originals. The prequels did go a bit heavy on the CGI, which is ridiculous because it looks shit, and they probably spent a lot of money on it at the time. It's like they could have spent that money on actually creating sets and things that would have looked more impressive. It baffles me a little bit, but
yeah, I
know there's some things that couldn't be done without CGI because they had like very big visions for it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like they could have done something a little bit more with that. But yeah, that's the hot takes for the prequel trilogy of Star Wars films. I don't know if there's anything else I really want to say on them, but I think overall, they're great films.
I would quite happily sit and watch them.
Yeah, I mean, they are trash, but they're also great in that sort of way as well. Before we do finish, though, I will ask you, do you have a particular favourite meme from Revenge of the Sith? Out of the many.
Hello there.
Have you got like a few that you could mention? Because there's bloody loads. Because there's not one that I can mention.
Hello there, do it, obviously.
Yeah.
What are the ones? High ground.
Yeah, that's a good one.
High ground.
A good one.
High grounds. High ground's a classic.
I quite like what is it? It's treason then.
Oh God, yeah. I completely forgot about that as well.
Palpatine sort of screeches as he sort of dives towards me. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's like, in the name of the Galactic Senate, you are under arrest, Chancellor. There we go. I mean, that's just a brilliant scene generally, but a lot of meme material.
He's too dangerous to be kept alive as well.
Yeah, that's good. I'd be looking forward to this. This is a personal favourite of mine as well.
Yeah. Unlimited power.
Unlimited power.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great one. There's a lot of fantastic mentions.
There's a lot, yeah.
Revenge of the Sith is filled with memes.
Oh yeah, it's probably I'd say it's got the most out of all.
Oh, definitely.
Probably got more than.
I'm pretty
Britton
sure
combined, to be
I've
fair.
definitely watched Revenge of the Sith more than once and counted the amount of memes in them.
Yeah.
I've done that multiple
definitely.
times, and it's a great film.
It's I absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
It's a classic film.
But yeah, I think that's really all that needs to be said. What I will ask for now is a sort of general rating out of 10 for each of the films. So, starting with The Phantom Menace.
Probably like a 3 point, maybe like a 3.7. Nah, a bit higher. 4.2. Yeah, go 4.2.
4.2.
4.2.
Interesting. I'm not really
Go
sure.
4.2.
I'm trying to think what I do for mine. Because it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's like it's not a good film, but it is a good Star Wars film. I think I'm just gonna go 4.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just 4. Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Yeah,
1.
I'll go 2. I'll be fair to it. I like bits of it.
Cool.
I like bits of it.
Nah.
Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
story generally, but I don't like
Yeah.
anything that we see.
Maybe like a 1.2,
Or
1.3. Yeah, but I don't really. I'm not a fan.
And finally, Revenge of the Sith.
As a film,
Yeah, as a
fine.
film, yeah.
probably like a mid-tier film.
I'm
As a Star Wars film.
gonna say 6
It's
for like a film.
Yeah.
As a Star Wars film, it's 5 stars. It's like
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
10 out of
without
10.
as a
But
yeah,
as a
Star Wars
film, it's about a 6
as
out
a
of 10
film.
for me. It's got a lot of value and it's got a lot of rewatchability. I think that really helps
Mm-hmm.
it. But I think as a film compared to everything else, it's a
Yeah,
it's that.
I'd say they're all like at least below half as films. They're all definitely not. They're not ideal.
They're not great, but
I wouldn't suggest them to anyone who likes watching films.
oh no, I wouldn't be like, you like
Nah.
films? I'll tell you a film you should watch. Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Like it's it's not great, is it? But
I
it's
could never see myself being like, has anyone got any good films to watch? We should watch Attack of the Clones. I just
yeah.
can never imagine saying
I
that to
can't
someone.
like imagine even putting that film on like out of choice unless you're doing like a marathon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The only time I'll ever watch
Which
it
says a lot.
is if I'm watching all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which does
The only time
say
I'll ever.
it does say a hell of a lot about that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But that is basically all that I really want to say about that those films. I think that's basically that covered. I'm hoping at some point on this podcast we'll end up doing original trilogy sequels, maybe some spin-offs as well. But we'll see in the future for that. But if you want it, let us know. I've enjoyed talking about the prequels. There's always a lot to talk about the prequels, and it's quite fun. So, yeah. But that is that for this. Cooper, have you got any sort of socials, anything you want to promote?
Cooper_Britton on Twitter and Britton UK on Instagram.
There we go. Fancy. Go and give Cooper a follow. And if you're interested as well in following the progress of the podcast, we're at Spill Your Beans on Twitter. So go and check that out. And obviously listen to us on Spotify. Where else are you listening? But listen to the other episodes as well. We've got 2 more before this, talking about Whiplash and the Oscar noms. So a lot of fun. Anyway, that's that. Have a lovely day. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.